Do come back, tensions between the U.S. and Iran already on the rise as Iran threatens to break the 2015 nuclear deal in just 10 days. Maybe they're already breaking it. Former State Department Senior Advisor Christian Whiten and Senate Chairman for the National Iranian Congress, Amir Fakhrivar, will both join us to talk about Iran next. Welcome back to Newsmax Now. According to Reuters, the U.S. is preparing to send additional troops to the Middle East in response to mounting concerns over Iran. Officials did not say how many troops would be deployed or detail the timing of the deployment. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with U.S. military commanders in charge of Mideast operations to discuss the growing Iranian threat. Pompeo promised the world would see more evidence that Iran, in fact, was behind those attacks on oil tankers last week in the Gulf of Oman. Pompeo also made it clear that all opinions, or all options rather, were on the table in order to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon.
Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. That's the goal. That's the objective of our entire campaign with respect to Iran, and to create stability throughout the Middle East as part of that effort. I don't want to talk about options that are out there, options that aren't out there. The president's made very clear we're going to achieve this objective. We continuously update option sets for the president. We've taken a handful of those actions to increase the opportunity to convince Iran that these actions aren't in their best interest, and it appears to be Iran that wants to continue to escalate this conflict.
All right, today Iran announced it would soon breach its limits on the amount of enriched uranium it can stockpile under the 2015 Iranian nuclear deal. According to reports, a National White House security spokesman called Tehran's announcement, quote, nuclear blackmail, and insisted it must be met with increased international pressure. For more on this, let's welcome in former State Department Senior Advisor Christian Whiten. Also with us, Senate Chairman of the National Iranian Congress, Amir Fakhrivar. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this evening. Great to have you both with us. What would it mean, Amir, for the Iranian regime and the Iranian people if the U.S. and Iran did get involved in a military conflict?
For Iranian people, honestly, right now, they can't wait to see such a thing, but not just small military attack. Iranian people, they just need help to be free from the small group of fanatic mullahs who have been in power for the last 40 years in Iran. But about the government, I'm sure government wants another type of attack. Government just wants maybe a little bit, couple of missiles or very small attack, then not the regime change. Then government can go around the world and act like a victim and tell the international community, oh, come and join us. Look, U.S., how bad U.S. is. And hopefully U.S. government will not go to this trap that regime badly wants, just the small attacks.
Yeah, and Amir, from what I've read, the Iranian people are so saddled by these economic sanctions that the threat of war doesn't seem like that bad of a prospect to them. There was a Washington Post article that came out last month indicating the same thing. Now, Christian, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says President Trump's sanctions are working and that these escalating threats from Iran are just par for the course. Here is Senator McConnell.
The president made the right decision in backing out of the nuclear deal because it wasn't much of a deal. And I think they're doing exactly the right thing in squeezing the Iranians through these sanctions. And it's clearly having an impact, which is why they're striking out. Now, look, the president's not trying to start a war. He made it clear to everybody he's not trying to start a war. But these are measured responses to Iranians acting out in the way that they always act out in the Middle East, with either directly or through surrogate groups killing people.
Is there anything to indicate to you, Christian, that this is something different than par for the course for the Iranians?
Well, the problem with par for the course is it's slowly boiling the frog, and we're the frog. So, Iran always calculates these moves. They use surrogates often, although in this case they may have just used the Iranian Navy or the IRGC Navy. We don't know completely just yet. But, for example, when they killed 241 Marines in Beirut in 1983, they used surrogates. When they killed thousands, potentially at least more than 1,000 Americans in Iraq in the last 2 decades, they used surrogates. So par for course is extremely dangerous and getting more dangerous as we see from the progress of Iran's nuclear program. I think McConnell is right that sanctions are having an effect, but the implication I think he's making is that we ought to stop there. There's going to come a point where we need to push back against Iran militarily unless we want things to get worse and worse or wake up one day and find a nuclear-armed Iranian regime.
Right. So what we've learned is that the sanctions aren't enough to prevent Iran from continuing to push the nuclear program. The Iran deal isn't enough to prevent Iran from pushing the deal. So, Christian, you're saying the only way to stop them is military action.
Well, I think that's coming to the point. If they continue to expand their nuclear activities, incidentally, they should have no nuclear activities. This is a country that is awash in oil, that has all the hydrocarbon energy it needs. It says it needs a nuclear energy program. That's a lie. All of these activities are to develop eventually a nuclear weapon. If they cease their aggressive activities, then I think we can wait and see if economic sanctions will have an effect either in stopping their nuclear progress or even better yet in bringing down the regime and replacing it with something more secular, which by all indications is something the Iranian people want to do. But if they're going to continue to make war on us and our allies and strike at our economic and national interests, then I think they need to feel some real pain. Not an Iraq-style invasion, not an Afghanistan-style invasion, but some sort of punitive expedition that puts them back in a box and also exposes them as weak to their own people, which I think their own people think already.
All right. Amir, last 30 seconds to you. Do you agree? Do you think some sort of military action like Christian just explained there is the only way to get Iran to stop pushing this nuclear program?
I'm 100% agree with Christian, but let me tell you something. Ali Akbar Salehi, the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, January 22nd, 2019, in an interview with Channel 4, Iranian state TV, said, you know what? Me and the Supreme Leader, himself and the Supreme Leader, we were the only people who knew that we fooled the international organizations and we fooled the United States government, the Obama administration, what we never implied with the nuclear deal, never ever. And we have been continuing our nuclear programs. You know, regime lies. Regime will not cooperate with the world, and the only language they understand is the language of force. And the Iranian people, they are waiting to see the world really is by the side of Iranian people. If regime can see some type of attack from the international community and U.S. government, then you will see the Iranian people will join international community and will celebrate it.
Well, we'll see if the international community steps up short of any sort of military conflict. Christian and Amir, thank you guys for your insights. Great to see you both. Coming up,